Well, you gotta ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya? Punk. Dirty Harry. Now, Dirty Harry came out in 1971, was directed by Don Siegel, and starred Clint Eastwood as Harry Callahan, police inspector. And it seems to me that Dirty Harry is the role that Clint Eastwood was born to play. He was already a household name when it came to westerns, and I'm pretty sure he took on this role to kind of break away from being typecast as only westerns to show that he could do other roles. And I think Dirty Harry was the perfect role for that because it incorporates a lot of the elements from those westerns. You know, he's this lone gunman, he plays by his own rules, he's kind of a morally gray character. The biggest difference is really the setting. Instead of being set in the 1800s out west, here we have San Francisco, present day 1971, police inspector, and Clint Eastwood kills it in this role. Now, for those of you who might not know what Dirty Harry is about, Dirty Harry is the kind of movie that you get in the late 60s, early 70s when a lot of major cities were having soft on crime policies. Crime was up, criminals were walking the streets, the prisons were basically a revolving door, and we're also getting this kind of new style of criminal, which is the serial killer, which, you know, nowadays, okay, everybody knows about it, but back then that was kind of a new thing, and I'm just realizing now how common it is today and how much we talk about it, and that's just really sad. But back then, police departments didn't really know how to handle it, and the real-life case of the Zodiac Killer was definitely an inspiration in crafting this movie. And with all of that going on, we get a movie that centers around a character like Harry Callahan, who's a cop that's like, hey, you know what, it's gotten to a point, screw the rules, screw the procedure, I know this guy's guilty, we have evidence, and if I can't put him away legally, I'm gonna just put him down. And while morally and constitutionally you can't condone everything that he does in this movie, you do understand the sentiment behind it, that you have a system that's failing the people, it's not protecting them the way that it should. And because that, you get movies like this fantasy of, oh, what if there was this person, this super trained, efficient guy that would protect you, that would catch the bad guys, put them down if necessary. But he has a code. He has to know that that person is actually guilty and be fairly convinced of that before he takes these drastic actions. And when this movie came out, it really helped to solidify the anti-hero archetype, which a lot of film professors like to credit Taxi Driver with. But Dirty Harry came out a few years before that, and you also have Charles Bronson in Death Wish, which the Death Wish movies definitely deserve their own video, but they are in that same vein of, the system's not working, I have to take matters into my own hands to ensure the safety of my community. And that's basically what Dirty Harry's about, although it doesn't immediately start off with that. At first it's like, oh, it's a murder mystery, police procedural, you meet all the main characters, you know that there's this serial killer who goes by the name of Scorpio, he's killing people seemingly at random, but he's leaving clues in the press, he's got a list of demands, and if they're not met, he's gonna go and kill another person. And we're introduced to our main character, Harry Callahan, and yeah, he's an anti-hero of sorts, although in the spectrum of anti-heroes, I'd say he's slightly more hero than anti, because in the beginning at least you do get a sense that he's just an efficient cop, he's good at his job. Granted, he's got a real messed up attitude about things, he doesn't trust people, he tends to see the worst in everybody, and he's bitter, which of course doesn't make him the most popular guy in the precinct. And he also has kind of a bad track record of his partners either being killed in action or hospitalized from action, because Dirty Harry, he doesn't care. He assumes the risk. If something is going down, he's going to intervene. He's going to take care of business and ask questions later. And this is exemplified with his choice of firearm, which of course is the .44 Magnum pistol. The most powerful handgun in the world, can blow your head clean off. Yeah, I'm going to go with no on that. Maybe it was the most powerful handgun in the world back in 1971, but you know, nowadays there's bigger ones, and I'm also pretty sure it won't blow your head clean off. It might leave a pretty big hole, but you know, that's Hollywood writing. They clearly don't understand guns, and it's only said when Harry's trying to intimidate a perp, so you could say he's exaggerating for effect because he knows that the perpetrator doesn't know the truth, so I give it a pass there. And weirdly enough, the first half of this movie doesn't really focus so much on the serial killer, the hunting him, the planting traps for him, seeing what he's going to do next. That's there, but it's kind of in the background. The forefront of this movie is a character study on Harry Callahan. You see his flaws, you see his virtues, you see where his line is, you see him go to all these different emergencies, and you really get to know this guy through the lens of his temporary partner, and he's kind of our window into the precinct, into who Harry is, because Harry is such a established figure set in his ways. The audience is generally less hardened and grizzled than Harry is, so it's good to have this guy as kind of someone for him to talk to explain his reasoning to, and we get some really good moments and scenes of seeing the unorthodox ways Harry takes care of business. An especially good scene is with the suicide jumper, and it actually reminded me a lot of Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon when he also had to talk down a jumper. And while he doesn't do it the exact same way, I do see a lot of parallels kind of between Dirty Harry's style of police work and Riggs' style in Lethal Weapon. They're both kind of unhinged cops and you don't really know what they're gonna do, but they get results and they're good judges of character. They know who the perps are and who to watch out for and who they definitely need to keep their eye on. And that's probably the single greatest redeeming quality of Harry Callahan. Despite his laissez-faire attitude to constitutionality and his kind of brutal approach to police work, he can tell who's committing crimes with real malice in their hearts versus just your run-of-the-mill shoplifter. You know, he's not going to be shooting off his .44 Magnum for someone robbing a dollar store. He's still reserving that use of force for the actually dangerous people. But as good as that first half is in establishing Harry's character, the movie does eventually focus up and really dive into Scorpio, played by Andrew Robinson, and what his deal is. And really, he's the wild card, he's the mad dog. You don't really know what his motivation is. He just wants to create panic and chaos and just have fun doing it. And he gives a performance here that I can only compare to like Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs, or maybe Javier Bardem in No Country for Old Men. He just is such a creep and just so awkward in his delivery, and you know something's wrong with him in here. And it's that unpredictability where you know he's capable of such extreme acts of violence and horror that you don't really see all that much because, again, this isn't a horror movie, this is a drama, a thriller. You see enough in like the background or in some very brief moments of outrage and violence where he slaps someone or hits someone over the head, and it just establishes him as this sick, twisted individual that you know needs to be taken down by any means necessary. And that's exactly what Harry does. And it's the Scorpio case that is the catalyst of his arc in this movie, because in the beginning of the movie, he's your cop. He doesn't necessarily like everything that the force is doing, but he plays the game because it's the best way to keep criminals off the streets. But when he comes face to face with Scorpio and he takes him down and he arrests him, he brings him in. Now, he doesn't necessarily bring him into the precinct, he brings him in to the hospital because he had to shoot him in the leg and kind of had to torture him with that wounded leg a little bit so that he could give up where that girl that he captured was, and turns out the girl was already dead, so that's kind of a moot point now. But then he finds out that as soon as this guy is recovered, the police cannot keep him because it was an illegal search of his property, they violated constitutional rights, the torturing methods were definitely not by the book, so because of all that, they have to let him go because they just don't have a legal case against him because Harry broke all those rules. And that's where the disillusionment with the police department really becomes evident in Harry's mind, and it gets to the point by the end of the movie where he leaves the police force. He throws his badge away. But I think it is important to say that before that conclusion, Harry did track down Scorpio again. This time Scorpio took a busload of kids and was using them as hostages, and Harry tracked him down, got him alone, shot him, and did kill him using one of the best movie lines ever. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya? Punk. And I guess Scorpio did feel lucky because he reaches for the gun and he just, bam, blows him away, dead. Case closed. But, you know, he knows that's not going to really go over well with the way the police department is, so he throws away his badge, and it's kind of ambiguous what that means. But I think it's safe to say that he's not going to stop getting rid of bad guys. He's just going to do it as a vigilante, not as a police officer. And that's Dirty Harry, the first in a series of 5 Dirty Harry films, but also launching a whole genre of crime-fighting vigilante movies that I should say are not based on comic books, because while comics definitely have a few of those, this really gave it a human element, took it to the streets, that a normal person, no superpowers needed, can identify right and wrong, and when the wrongs are not being righted, they have the conviction to actually do something about it. And that's kind of the appeal of the anti-hero, because yeah, while I'm sure a lot of us would love to follow the letter of the law and be law-abiding citizens, there is a part of us that knows that the system has cracks in it, that things don't always go by the book, and sometimes it'd be nice if you could just go out and fix that yourself. But now I turn over to you guys. What do you think about Dirty Harry? Whatever you think, let me know in the comments, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content, and hit the notification bell to be notified every time I upload a video. And as always, I'm Colby, this is my Nerdy Talk, and I'll see you in the next video.